Hello, YouTube. ZiggyNo back. Collector versus investor? Or is it really hobbyist versus businessman? And let me explain what I'm talking about. If you've been around the hobby for a while, even like the last 6 months, there's like this kind of, the investor, this guy buying the cards, selling the cards, a flipper, whatever. People drive into cards on the investment side. This is a good investment. This is a long-term hold. The goats are where we should be putting our money, right? A lot of investment channels. At the same time, they'll tell you, oh, I'm a collector. I've got a PC. So there's this collector versus investor. I don't know, yin yang. I even kind of say it's kind of like a Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde tugging at you, right? I admit I got a collector and I got a little bit of investor inside of me. But the more I think about it, it's not collector versus investor. It's really hobbyist versus businessman. And what I mean by that, I think there's more pure hobbyists who collect because this is not their income. It's not their primary livelihood, right? They collect cards, they like garbage pail kids. I don't know, they like whatever is, there's something that got them into it. They have a relationship with their kids collecting, whatever they might be. They're into the collecting. Many of these guys who collect, they'll sell to support the collection, right? Hey, I'm a basketball guy, but I picked up baseball and I sold it to get this. Or I pulled a good baseball hit and I sold it to get my basketball right or get my PC. Lots of logic behind that. Or else they're a basketball guy who uses other teams to trade up to get his team cards, right? A lot of this collecting hobbyist movement. But when you look at that as a greater community, most of those guys, this is a hobby for. The people who provide the business to us, right? The businessmen really are kind of the manufacturers, right? And our card stores, our local card stores. And for a long time, that was pretty much, the collector versus the man. You get a card store because they give you a better deal than, you can get directly or, anywhere else or whatever. But my point is what's changed a lot is that if you look at what's happened in the last 18 months, it's not just that the hobbyist, businessman, it's to think of how many people have moved from hobbyist to now full-time businessman, right? Where it is their livelihood now to be in the hobby. And that in itself kind of has created a lot of this hyper energy and information. And I just want to kind of share with you some insights on this. So I wanted to look at what type of opportunities are there in cards, right? As far as a career, if I wanted to make a livelihood or pay my mortgage and everything every month, how would I do that? Well, a couple examples. Where are my notes? Right. The first one is card shop owner, right? Whether it's virtual or physical, owning a shop. The idea here, and I'll come back to this one in more in detail, is that I'm able to buy cards and sell them to people who want to buy them for more. I'm able to get them from distribution. And if I'm really lucky, maybe I buy or have access to allocation, right? Or I don't know, I have some hookup, or I don't know, I have a hookup with all the Walmart managers in my regions. Whatever it might be, is I have access to sealed wax that I believe I can sell for more than I had. Now, this business leads to the second business, right? And that's the breaking business. Because a lot of times guys get into breaking because they have access to sealed product that they can't sell sealed, right? No one wants to pay the exorbitant sealed last comp prices, but they can sell it to you as a breaker at that price. And what I mean by that is a blaster can sell on eBay for $100. Well, that means every blaster is $100? No, but the perceived value will be it's $100, which means I can now build a break that takes every blaster into account at $100, right? So I put 4 blasters in there, it's a $400 break when I spent $80 on the break, right? And that's built this, again, a lot of business in this, right? I read an article, or not an article, clipping the other day of a guy who's basically gone in full time because he was breaking. He started, breaking part-time, and now he's full-time. I know a lot of people like that. I know a lot of people have built business. And let me first of all say, I'm not taking knocks at that. I applaud that. They got into it, they hustle. But I want to point out is that each one's hustling, they're hustling for a limited supply, right? Most of the guys that I know have gotten to breaking recently do have no allocation. If you've gotten to breaking last few years, you don't have allocation. At best case, you have access to disty, and maybe you've got a good deal with your disty where you get some stuff every now and then, but you are not. The best thing you're probably doing is getting pre-order prices, to be honest with you, right? But you are not getting access to allocated prices, which I mentioned that because in the future, this is going to all change, guys. Okay, next thing, I got breaker, card shop owner, virtual. Let me give you another one. Ship consolidator. I know you're like, what the hell is a ship consolidator? Well, Ship My Cards is one example, but I also know individuals, breakers can do this. People who do grading, subbing surfaces. If I'm using somebody, I might start using him to send my cards. Like, for example, if I buy a card on eBay for $100 and I'm in New York, which I'm not, I would pay 8% taxes on that. But I could send that card, use my shipping address to say Florida, and not pay the 8% sales tax. I believe that's correct. And I don't know if this is legit or not, but this is an example of what people do. Again, I don't live in these states. This is why it's not me, but I can have that card shipped at now $8 less. Is that a big deal? Well, I'm saving $8, and the guy who's doing it for me can charge me $3, right? And if he did this 10 times, he makes 30, and I just saved myself, you know what? $150. Okay, so you see my point. The ship consolidator works, and it's even bigger payoffs for international, bigger payoffs for Canadians, right? Who want to get access to products, slabs. There's a big business in the ship consolidator. People can make a living off of this. Consignment business, right? There's a lot of consigners out there. It's not just the ones you see on eBay with the big names. There's guys who just run basic consignment businesses. They can either log into your account and list for you and sell for you and ship for you, or they can use their own accounts. There's different ways they cut this. I know guys on Facebook groups who will buy lots and do consignment for it, sell it on Facebook groups and give you, you know, a cut or whatever the agreed upon price is. But consignment is a huge business where people are making a living, right? So they just want to point out there's so many careers in sports cards. Grade subber, right? This has been around for a while, and I don't think it's gone because, in fact, with more grading companies, more grading options, a grade subber can still do very well, right? They can wipe down cards, inspect cards, can help you get cards graded quickly, you know, gets access. Like, for example, if you're doing a PSA, I'm sure everybody uses a PSA subber right now is telling you, get your cards in now because we're going to be first in line, right? Well, they all think they will be, but my point is they will be ready to go when things happen. They can also get you access to BGS, GSA, ABC, and whatever the other ones are, right? So it's another business. I'll just mention one of my friends that I'm a really good friend, known this guy for like probably 5 or 6 years. He's not full-time yet in sports cards, but he's running about every one of these businesses I mentioned. He doesn't do breaking and he doesn't do card ownership, but he's running subbing, he does consignment, he does shipping, and he's doing very well in this, right? And again, he's not the only one. A lot of people are doing this. And I want to applaud this, but I want to point out a lot of businessmen, right? Because that business is dependent on people continuing to be in sports cards. How's my lighting doing? We're looking pretty good here. I know we'll just bring it in, but it'll zoom. Are these sustainable? Oh, we will see. I'll get to that in a second. But the newest one I want to talk about, right, real quickly, are the graders. And I will say, I mean, I've been throwing gasoline on this fire for the last, year or so because I want technology to grade. But there are a lot of new graders coming in the business. I talked about TGA. You saw HGA. There's another one coming out. I'm gonna get more information on. Let me just say this. I honestly thought that this would not work, but what I'm realizing, and someone else said this before, what people want is a card in a protected slab that a professional, and that's a loose term, has given an opinion on. And that's fair. That's very, very fair. So I understand why there's an opening in this market. And this is what I'd say. I also, for me, like I'm looking at this, there's some cards I have no problem buying. I won't buy HGA to pay the premium on an HGA slab. Does that make sense? But I would buy an HGA card. I have nothing against HGA. If I don't like it, I could crack it and resub it somebody else. Or I can hold on to it and be patient. I'm not worried about that. I'm actually going to start looking at things like GMA, right? I know there's a bunch of Canadian companies. I was talking to a friend. I think the Canadian challenge is you have the customs and the taxes going back and forth. So it seems to be unfairly, this anyone can grade business is a US opportunity. Now I could be wrong. I don't think an HGA would do as well in Canada. At the same time, I wonder if he built a franchise there, would the franchise have enough business in Canada alone to do very well? I mean, you're like probably doing 2,000 or 3,000 subs in Canada would be freaking great, right? Do you think that'd be great if there's a franchise in Canada, just serviced Canada, right? Gave special treatment because you don't have to worry about the shipping. I don't know. Think about that. Someone will come up with some of that. Also, these artists and custom cards, you'll see these as well. I saw some Prism Jordans, which is somebody basically mocking up cards, I believe, because there's no way Panini printed those. And I find that stuff interesting. Like, is this stuff sustainable? Will it be around for long? I don't know. What I will tell you is you got to think about this. Eventually, we're going to go back to normal. Okay. And what normal is to me is it's a time when there's cards sitting on the shelves at the store. Okay. And I'm not talking just the retail store. I'm talking at the hobby store. Okay. When they're sitting on the shelves at the retail store, that's the canary in the cave. But I'm talking when you go into the hobby shop and they're doing a discount where, hey, we're trying to get rid of last year's Donruss or Hoops boxes at $45 a hobby box. I mean, for every X box you buy. Those days, shockingly, I believe will return. I mean that. And you're saying, oh, well, Ziggy, you don't understand. I'm just saying everything, and it's not about just growth, it's just everything levels off. Even the point where people become educated buyers and realize, hey, I'm not making enough money to support the hoops box. Like the hoops boxes this year that people paid so much money for, I can't remember. Was it $500 for Hobby Box? You can't see that sustaining, right? And I look forward to next year. Are you going to sell me Prism at $3,000 next year? I mean, I know you got away with selling it for $2,000 a Hobby Box. Is it $3,000 next year? Because it is. How do we sustain that? So eventually that can't continue, right? I will also say, I think, as I've said before, I said this about a year ago and I opened my channel. With money comes a lot of fraud and corruption. Okay. I pride myself on my channel that I do this channel to influence, to get you to think, to get people to listen to what I'm saying. I don't do this to make money. I'm not charging you commercials or memberships or anything like that. But everybody's got a spin on why they're in this business. I think some of the most honest people in this business are the upfront, clear businessmen. And we've always respected that. You understand who Topps is. You understand who your local card store is. I appreciate the investors out there who call themselves, hey, I'm an investor. I do sports cards for investment. Hey, call it what it is. What I think shady is there's a lot of people who've taken advantage, who are collectors, who have the knowledge and the wisdom to do what's right, but are misleading people. Let me give you an example. If I am an auction, if I'm going to sell something or act as a third party to sell something, and I find out that the item that I'm selling has been repacked, or I have doubt that it's been repacked, right? Or it's been sealed and reopened, even though I can play plausible deniability. Well, I don't know. It was given to me by Joe, and Joe's a trusted guy, and it was sealed when I got it. If there's a doubt in my mind, and then I sell that to someone else, and then that person opens it and verifies that it was a repack, right? I should at least have the dignity to help that person fight the person who screwed them at minimum. More likely, I should probably take some guilt in that because I was aware of it. But what you'll see is, again, what they're doing is they know that people aren't buying this stuff necessarily to rip it. They're buying it to hold it, right? Invest in it. It's a long time. Buy the goats, hold them sealed, whatever it might be. So you'll buy an old box of sealed whatever for, say, 10K. You'll hold it as an investor thinking you're going to be okay. And then 5 years down the road, you open it, find out you had cheated. That's a bitter pill to swallow. That's a really, really, really bitter pill to swallow. So that to me is what I'm worried about, right? The biggest threat right now is that it's those knowledgeable people about the hobby who are using it for dark. And there's a lot of them, right? They play I'm a collector, but dude, you're a businessman. Call it out for what it is. You're here to make $1, right? Another one that I think we poked at a while back was this Grade the Grader stickers that I saw at a show. This guy would put a sticker on the grade, platinum, gold, whatever. And now that I'm thinking of this, going, there might be a bigger market for his business than ever before, right? Because you have all these different grading companies, right? In fact, what this community needs more than anything, I think, really, is some independent organization, or I don't know, a governing body or something. And I don't want to be the government, but maybe something gives oversight, members of the community, whether it's from the manufacturers to distributors to whatever. But we need to do stuff to protect the hobby, if that makes sense, right? To prevent like fraud and the corruption and the stuff like that. For example, one thing I'd love to work on, and again, I honestly, I don't have the means right now to do this, is I'd like to get a slab of a bunch of different grading companies, and I would like to have kind of a blind taste test and have people tell me which one they think is best, who know nothing about sports cards, right? So I got a couple ideas. Here's another thing I like to do. I like to do the same cards, right? Maybe get like a 9 from every company. 10s are too damn expensive. A 9 from every company, and have those all cracked and examined, right? And maybe even try to cross them over to see if they get 9s. I know it's hard to do, but at least examine them. Have one independent person come in and examine them. Do they each look like a 9 to them? Do they qualify as a 9? Or you're looking at one and go, man, this one should be a 10, or man, this one should be a 7, and they gave it a 9. I'd like to see something on that, some independent research. So anyway, babbled on a lot. Purpose, is it hobbyist versus businessman, and not collector versus investor? Not that there's a verse, but there definitely is this struggle between the two. And I think many of us internally deal with it, right? Like, Someone asked me recently, Ziggy, why don't you just go into sports cards full time? I will tell you in closing, I think if I was doing this for a livelihood, if I had to pay my mortgage and take care of my family on sports cards, I think it would kill the love I have for the sports cards. It wouldn't be a hobby for me. That's me. I don't, I think everybody else deals it differently. Some people say, man, do what you love, and I love cards, and now I'm doing it. And that's a great way to look at it. I don't disagree with that. I understand that. That's probably true. At some point, maybe I will do this, I think, again, as a part-time income in my lifetime, or supplemental income when I retire or whatever. But I really love the hobby for just what it is right now. And a lot of it, to me, as times have gotten tougher and the expenses have gotten higher, are not in the monetary side of the hobby. Well, great channels out there. Keep watching. I'll be honest, I lost my laptop and all my data on it. I want to do an update on some stuff, so I'm really behind. Hope you guys appreciate this video tonight. If you haven't already, please subscribe. Hopefully this one keeps subscriptions up this time instead of down. We went down last time.